I'm Callie and welcome to Kowalski Reads, and I have done another roll of my Spookopoly board. I have lost count of what roll I'm on, so I think this is roll 3 because roll 2 had a lot. Okay, roll whatever number. 6. Again, I don't have my tripod, so I'm shiggly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What does that say? And I got blood. Oh no. This was a book with a red cover. So of course I had to pick Dracul by Dr. Stoker and J.D. Barker because I love Dracula. Why would I not want to read a book based on the lost 100-page introduction to Dracula? I also thought, in the spirit of my love of Dracula, I would share with you my Dracula collection before talking to you about the book. I do not keep multiples of many books. I can only really think of 2 books that I kind of would consider books that I collect multiple editions of, which are Dracula and The Bell Jar. Other than these 2 books, I don't really collect a lot of multiple editions. I don't have a lot of space, so few that I get multiples of. For Dracula, I've shown some great restraint over the years. I only have technically 5 editions of Dracula. So let's go through them together. First up is what I would consider my reading copy of Dracula, which is just a nice, very floppy Wordsworth paperback. This isn't my original edition because I like to read this book every year, but this is my most read copy. It's definitely in good condition and it's a solid paperback. Love it. The rest of the editions are not what I would consider reading copies, but I have read them. This is my newest edition. This is another Wordsworth edition and it's just so cute. It's quite a dinky little book. Like, if I compare it to the paperback, it's a little bit more compact, which means it's a bit thicker. And it's got a really cute little quote on the back of it. It's a gorgeous edition and it was quite the bargain, which was what inspired me to just go, I'll get another edition. I don't need it, but I wanted it. I also have the cloth bound puffin edition, which is it's gorgeous, isn't it? This is the copy that I feel I see the most when I'm looking on the internet at other people reading Dracula, and it's gorgeous. It is a little bit scuffed at the back where it's got this gorgeous little quote, but I feel this isn't the best reading edition. I love these editions, like cloth-bound classics are so pretty, but my just little mitts, I feel ruin them. They're so pretty, but I just don't feel they're practical. But look at her. Next is my illustrated edition. It's so pretty. Again, we have sprayed edges, but this book isn't overly illustrated because there's not that many illustrations in it. It's a book with illustrations rather than an illustrated edition, but it's still absolutely gorgeous, and I think that the illustrations do add a little something. But I always find this size of hardback very cumbersome. It's too wide to be comfortable to read. And my final edition is one that I got from Barnes & Noble. I mean, look at it. Silver foil edges and of course the little ribbon, which I expect a ribbon with a grand book like this. It's so hefty. This also has some other stories in it in addition to Dracula, but it is absolutely stunning. I love all of my editions of Dracula, but I think my absolute favorite kind of has to be my paperback. Like, I have these gorgeous editions and they're so pretty to look at, and I just like having a collection of something that brings me great joy. But this paperback is the one I look for when I want to read it, and I absolutely love this one probably the most. Now, let's get on to Dracul. I have been referencing this book as a Dracula prequel because that's what it's been getting marketed as. This book is written by the great-great-great-grandnephew of Bram Stoker, Dracula Stoker, who worked along with J.D. Barker, and together they have come up with this very entertaining read. This book is based off of the notes left by Bram Stoker that were thought to be the first 100 pages of Dracula, and they've kind of gone from there. I was so wary going into this book because I haven't had the best experience with reading books written by a certain person and then brought back to life by somebody else. I'm looking at you, Poirot, modern day Poirots. Not for me, but I'm happy for whoever is enjoying them. I've read one. I don't know. I just felt it was missing a little something and it didn't work for me. So I was so nervous going into this, particularly because I thought I would read this in tandem with the audiobook. I listened to the audiobook for 2 chapters and then I returned it because the audiobook is atrocious. Audiobook for this, oh, it gave me the fear. But once I swapped back to the book, I had a great time with it. My thought was that I could listen to the audiobook, go about my day, and then pick this up when I wasn't, you know, doing housework and boring walking and things. But oh no, I had to stay indoors and read because I couldn't listen to the audiobook. What a shame. This book actually focuses on our main character is called Bram Stoker. And we alternate between flashbacks and current day, as in 1868, where Bram finds himself locked in a room with something or someone trying very, very hard to get into him. He's filled this room with crosses, with wild roses, basically all of the please leave me alone vampire stuff. And then we go back and we learn about little baby Bram. Part 1 tells us all about Bram Stoker and his relationship with his siblings and his nana, who would probably be considered as like a nanny. He's a very poorly boy and he kind of only feels better when his nana takes care of him, and he gets a bit of health, he gets his strength back, and he and his sister go out adventuring and they find out some things that they are a little confused by. Some things don't seem quite right, and some things feel like they simply couldn't possibly be. We then fast forward to part 2, where Bram and his sister Matilda are older. They are in their early 20s and trying to find their way in life. Bram is working away in a job he just doesn't like. He wants to work in the theatre, and his sister wants to see a bit of the world, but they are also kind of haunted by the events of their childhood, and they are convinced that they are seeing their nana. She just hasn't aged. And his siblings then start to discuss the weird things that they have been experiencing, and it turns out that they've all been seeing their nana just, you know, around the world, but she's not aged a day, which is interesting because she disappeared when they were so young. And we kind of go from there on a bit of a vampire hunt, if you will. It very much took the format of the original Dracula, very much told through letter writing, diary entries, and I loved the fact that it stuck to the format that is so beloved. I felt that this book was gloriously gothic. It very much captured the time period, and I really liked the sort of sibling relationship in this book. I felt that this book was written for people who enjoy Dracula, for people who enjoy vampire books. And I know that seems really silly to say that because of course it was written for people who would want to read it. But what I mean is that it felt like it was a true passion piece, and it kept giving little extra nuggets, being like, that's one for you. And I loved that. There was a moment in a club where Sheridan Le Fanu, who wrote Carmilla, which was considered to be the inspiration behind Dracula, he had a wee cameo. Loved that. There were some lines that were almost lifted from Dracula film adaptations, and that was really exciting. And I felt that this was a true passion piece, and it was really much just like, hey, people who like this, you're probably gonna like this. And I found myself just grinning while I was reading this. I absolutely adored it. I loved the way that the female character Matilda and Nana got to really stand on their own feet. They were women in the 19th century and, you know, didn't have a huge amount of agency, but in this book, people listened to them. Big thing there, because that's what's missing quite a bit in Dracula. I just feel that this book truly captured just human emotion and relationships and love, and I thought it was such a fantastic read. I had the best time with this book. I absolutely adored it. I wanted to finish it in a day, but I did not have a day in which to finish it. I found that when I was reading it, I didn't want to put it down. I felt it was gloriously gothic. You could tell me that this book was written in the 19th century and I would believe you, because it had the atmosphere, it had the writing style, it had the vibe of Dracula. It was just a very pleasant surprise because I was so worried, but I felt that this book truly captured the heart of Dracula, and I really liked that it was different characters. I liked that it was the characters from Dracula. We got Bram, which a lovely yet very unsubtle nod. The rest of this book then takes a very kind of similar route to Dracula, but with a quest element. And I love a quest element. We've got to find some things, and I really enjoyed it, and it was just a wonderful time. Similar vein, if you do enjoy Dracula, is this an opportunity for me to recommend reading Powers of Darkness, which is thought to be the lost Icelandic translation of Dracula? The story surrounding this book, the lore, if you will, is that Dracula was given to Valdemar Asmundsson with the purpose of it being translated into Icelandic, and instead of translating the book, it was kind of rewritten. It wasn't noticed until 2014 that the book had, instead of having been translated, was completely rewritten. And then a whole team worked together to rework the translated version of the book back into English, and we have Powers of Darkness, which is the retranslated back story plus footnotes, which explain there are some translations where they're a bit like, maybe we think this is what it could be. And it's just such an exciting and interesting book. And I kind of really love the fact that it went totally unnoticed, that the translation was not accurate. And I just think that must be so confusing for people who read this and then maybe watched like a film adaptation. They must have been so confused. They've just gone, well, what a weird adaptation, Hollywood. Love to know what your favourite classic is. For me, I'm a Dracula girly. Can't say no to a vampire. But I should. I really should. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!